Hello YouTube, welcome to Trading to the Promised Land. Today will be a recap of August 10th, 2023. The chart that you have in front of you is GBPUSD on the 5-minute time frame using the TradingView software. Today was actually an interesting day just because there were core inflation data that came out at 8:30 a.m. This is inflation data for the United States, and it usually has a big impact on price action just due to the state of the economy right now. I will play the price action that occurred today, and we'll be able to indicate where we could have potentially entered and exited and hopefully made some money today. I mainly use the supply and demand strategy. Just note that I am quite the beginner. This is not financial advice. If you have any questions about trading Forex, please seek a certified financial advisor. So as you can tell, the consolidation continued even past midnight on the 10th. So that continued for a couple of hours as Asian session ends at 2 a.m. Eastern time. So that's when we typically see a little bit more of action. As you see in front of you, it started trending up at 2 a.m. So typically I would mark these areas here and potentially here as areas of demand where price could potentially go back and react. So currently, as you can tell, we're uptrending. Use a little tool here. We're definitely going up. We're experiencing higher highs, higher lows, higher highs, higher lows, higher highs, and higher lows. So typically we would be looking for buys in this situation and not sells unless there's a change of trend or your trading plan dictates that you should look for a sell. This would also be a zone to look for just because we had aggressive buying to the upside following these red candles. Now, in my limited experience, it's not unlike price to consolidate a little bit before a big news. So this might be what we're seeing here a little bit. Again, this is a potential zone here, as there were two red candles and then price kind of shot up. So there you go, as you can see, it hit our zone and then now it's going back up. I'll just pause here. The reason why I wanted to pause here is because I just want to note that this is 8:30. So you can tell that there's a lot of price action due to the news that came out on inflation. I'll try to share my screen, but what occurred in the inflation report is that The inflation for June 2023 was 4.8%. The forecast was that July data would be the same, so 4.8%. What occurred is that the data reported for July 2023 was lower than forecasted, and the inflation data was actually 4.7%. So that's why you saw price action react the way it did. But of course, it's not only at 8:30 that it reacts, it will react the whole day. You can disregard this area for now. I'll explain why this is there in a moment. Boom, there you go. So it's kind of dangerous to trade news because of this. Could have thought that it was going to go up drastically because of the news, and it did go up extremely high, but then it came right back down. So it's a little bit dangerous trading news. I'll pause here for a moment. So you can tell that it went up based on the news, and then it went right back down just a couple of minutes after. Note again that these are 5-minute candles, so this is 8:30. Actually, this is 8:30 here. This was 8:25, 8:30, 8:35, 8:40. So quite the change in just a couple of minutes. So you really have to be careful if you're going to trade news. Most people suggest that you don't trade news. I just want to note that this candle actually created a very large supply zone. I don't like to use these candles just because they are a reaction of news. But again, if you do consider this candle here, price did react to it. So it went down and then it went back up to it and then shot down again. The only reason why I don't like these candles or trading them is usually because it's hard to put an appropriate stop loss because the candle is so large. So I'll just delete it for now as it already tapped in, but it's something to consider for future price action. Now here is a more reasonable candle that's not as large, where because we're seeing higher highs, higher low, we had a high, then we got a lower low than we had previously, and then a lower high, and again a lower low. So the trend is no longer going up, it's now going down. So because of that, we would start to consider sells instead of buys. And this is why I have marked the supply zone here. We'll see how price react to these areas. So we see that it goes back up there. So technically, based on your trading plan, you could have taken an entry here, but again, just want to note that it reacted to the zone and went right back to it and reacted to it again. So that happens sometimes. That's why you have to have an appropriate stop loss, because if your stop loss was too tight, you might have been exited your trade, but it's going back down. Now the reason why we have an orange circle here, an orange circle here, and this tool here is because I actually entered this trade today on GBPUSD. I entered around this area because of the reaction that we had here. I actually missed this reaction, but thankfully I caught this reaction, and I entered at the break of that candle, so that's why you have the orange circle here, and I exited at this circle here. So it kind of gave me a 1 to 2.48 risk to reward, which is not bad. But as the day goes on, we'll notice that if I had held, we could have had a greater reward. But I'm very happy with the profits that I made today, and very grateful for it. So I'll continue with the play. Just before we do that, these zones are no longer valid as they've been disrespected. You'll see that this one was actually good because it was a demand zone, and with the information of the report, it hit that demand zone and then went up. So it actually reacted to it fairly well. But after that, it was no longer valid. So delete that to remove clutter. The zone from earlier as well also reacted, although it went down, it wicked out of the zone slightly, but then shot back up. So that was another buying opportunity. I'll remove it now. So now we still have this previous zone from earlier. We'll see how price reacts to it. And we're getting back into the Asian session consolidation area, so we'll see how price reacts to that as well. So it looks like price didn't really care about this area. However, I'll just pause here. It created another supply zone right here. So we can mark this like this. And you can see it's already beginning to reject this area. So it is reacting to the zone, but right now, because we're in such a strong downtrend, would have been very dangerous to enter into buys unless you have a strong indication that you're looking at a reversal. Right now, because we're still doing lower highs and lower lows, unless that trend was broken, I would not have entered any buys. And that's why you kind of see that this area has been disrespected, although it reacted, so it's not fully disrespected, but we see that price has already gone through it. So I will delete it. Just to note, that's very interesting, and there's also a supply zone here, but what I was going to say is that we're kind of consolidating a little bit back into the Asian session. So it's always good to, noticing that it's good to mark these zones just to see what happens, but there we go again. It keeps on going down. As mentioned, if I had held my position, it could have been a very interesting trade, but very happy with the profit that I made today on the small account. What I didn't do while I was explaining a few things is mark zones of interest. So this could be one, although it's a little bit big. This was one as well, and it got hit. So as you can tell, price reacted here, went down, came back up to this area, and then went back down. So at this point, we're getting a little bit late into the day. Forex pairs, once you get late into the day, sometimes there's not as much price action. especially since the stock market closes at 4. I believe you kind of see that reflected in Forex pairs as well. So we'll keep it going for a little bit longer, but at this point it's 4 p.m. Eastern time. Don't really see too many areas of interest, and technically the trend hasn't reversed yet, so we're still seeing lower highs and lower lows. So this is a lower low, this is a lower high. This is kind of the same, so we're still seeing a lower low. So I'll just stop it here because we can tell that it's kind of consolidating. But as I can tell today, August 10th, 2023, there was some good areas of interest, some opportunities, a lot of opportunities to make money on the downside. And even earlier in the day, there was opportunities to make money on the upside as well. So if you like this content, please make sure to like, subscribe, and leave a comment. I'll do a lot more of these, as for me it just helps me practice and become a better trader, and at the same time it might help someone here. But once again, this is not financial advice. This is mainly for entertainment and educational purposes. See you next time. Take care.